Welcome to FAROL, a light for the journey.
My name is Tiwa, and welcome back again to our channel, to our podcast, FAROL.
Yay! Hi, I'm Emanuela. Nice to meet you all. This is our first episode, right?
Yes, we've been so excited ever since we put it out there, shared the news with you guys, and launched everything. A bit nervous, but we want to really start this journey carrying everybody along with us. So, welcome on board. So, today, as you've heard, our first episode is about Ikigai.
Ikigai.
Ikigai. It literally spells, and you see this on your screen, Ikigai, Ikigai. And I remember Emanuela asking me why Ikigai, and I'm sure most of you have read the book. It's really famous. But yeah, basically, Ikigai is a Japanese word which means your reason to be. Like the French, you say la raison d'être, your reason for existing. Okay, maybe we can translate that into your purpose for living,
Mm-hmm,
purpose,
mm-hmm.
the purpose for your life. So that's what we want to talk about today because it's something we are also looking at personally in our lives, something we're dealing with. And yeah, so let's keep the ball rolling. Let's get the ball rolling.
Yeah, so I know we're planning to talk about Ikigai, and I know Tiwa, since you're the expert around
Next.
Ikigai, can you please maybe go a little bit deeper into why that phrase or that word stood out to you and why we're talking about it today?
Yeah, so I don't know about you, but have you ever felt, or at some point in your life, even if it's not like right now, felt like you're doing everything right? You felt like, oh, you chose the best program, the right school.
Mm.
You're doing what you think you were meant to do, but then you always have this feeling that, is this it? Like, am I really on the right path? Am I making that impact that
Mm.
I'm supposed to be making, am I living the purpose God actually for which He created me? So it's something I've been really battling with. There are times in my life that I feel like, oh, I found it, because it's not the first time I've thought about things like this. And so I thought that if we're going to start a podcast, it's something I'd like to start with, especially because it's called Farol and we want to like put a light out there and carry people along on this journey, given direction.
Mhm.
So that's why this came about. But yeah, like I mentioned, Ikigai, and I don't know if the people watching us who have traveled to Japan or follow Japanese culture a lot, but the Japanese are really so special, even with the way they eat, what they watch, how they take care of themselves,
Mm.
their lifespan is just tremendously long and they live quality life. And so ever since I read that book, and because I've been searching for my purpose, praying about it as a Christian, and reading more about it, I thought it was a good thing to talk about. What do you think?
I mean, it's so funny because Tiwa recommended me to read the same book, and even though I like reading, from the little that I read, I could really tell like the book was really based on not only like finding your purpose, but like how you can incorporate that in your daily life, your habits, your lifestyle, like how to transform that inside out. I don't know if that makes sense because I've also struggled. I mean, till today, I don't know what my purpose is. And, you always go to church, you pray about it, like God will give you your purpose, He'll align everything for you. But sometimes it's hard to like really discover that. But like from what I read, like finding your purpose is a gradual process, right? It's about growth, it's putting yourself out there, allowing yourself to learn. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to the conversation we'll have today. Yeah.
Yeah. But we are Christians, and I know that there are different people out there who'll be watching us, but as Christians, I think that if you want to discover your purpose, the first step, first of all, she said something, it's a process, and you have to be intentional about it. And for us Christians, and I think most believers out there would want to first consult with God.
Mhm.
So the first thing is actually intentionally going to God and praying about it for direction. And for some people, especially like me, you may not get the answer right then. Then God sometimes will take you through detours. It's a whole process, right? Sometimes you think, oh, I'm almost at the finish line. Before you know, he's like, nope, just get to point B before coming back to C and then A. So the first thing is praying and not just, sitting down and just, just saying stuff to God, dear God, please help me find my purpose. It is prayer also. But I believe that just as Emma said, it's a journey. And so you want to take him along every step of the way. And as the direction comes, you carry him along. But before we delve in and before Emma throws all the questions at me, I think that one thing I took from the book, and basically, if you put in a very simple research, like search online about what Ikigai is, what's going to show up is that one, you have to know what you love,
Mhm.
right? So, for example, oh, I love writing or I love to sing. That's the first step. You know what you love. But to live your purpose, especially right now in this economy, you don't want to just go about saying, oh, this is what I want to do, right?
Mhm.
So after you discover what you love, then it's like, what are you good at, right? Because you may love different things. Even with the singing, um, you could love to sing, but maybe not very good at it. So if it's music in general,
Mhm.
maybe you love to sing, but you're probably good at organizing singers or playing an instrument,
Mhm.
something. But the whole point is that after discovering like what you love, what you're good at, you want to know what the world really needs at that point in time. Because just like any entrepreneur would say, oh, I started my business to respond to this market need. Okay, you discovered what you love, what you're good at, but does it respond to what the world around you needs at that particular point in time? If you're able to get through that, and s- they're not like a step by step process, as
Mhm.
I'm putting it, like you don't have to move from point A to point B and to come back to like what the world needs. But it's something you discover. So for some people, it could take you like a month, and for some, it could take you what, 3 years? Hopefully not. But after discovering that, I think in this economy, you have to eat, gotta pay the bills. So what can you be paid for?
Mhm.
Right? So I'm gonna use myself as an example. Um, and maybe I'm talking too much, but I'll end here and then let Emma throw whatever she wants to throw back at me. But yeah, maybe Emma should go first.
Yeah, I mean, what you said about like what the world needs, I guess we could argue that the world might not necessarily mean the whole
The
world.
whole
It
world.
could be like your community or your family or whoever is in whoever you're in proximity with,
Like
and what do
your
they,
world or the
yeah,
world around you.
yeah,
Yeah, I think that's really important to know because sometimes we want to think so big
big, yeah,
that we get lost and then frustrated. And then if you're not careful, depression sets in, you start questioning even your self worth. But if you start small, right? Yeah, I think you made a really valid point
yeah.
there.
Because I'm like the world needs a lot. There's a lot going on in the world.
Right?
Yeah.
There's even World War III about to start, but
Hey,
yeah, go for it.
God forbid.
But I think she made a really valid point. And thinking about it, looking at my journey as a young girl, right after secondary school, I get the scholarship to Morocco. Like, what am I going to do? Then my parents were so scared. And it was also like a good opportunity, especially financially for my family at that time.
Mm,
And so I go out there and I'm excited about learning a new language, learning French, finish my program, come back home, and I'm like, what can I do? Right? Obviously, I start off in a company that needed my French speaking skills. And so I responded to my world's need at that time, which is the company's needs, because then we interacted with a lot of Francophone clients and
mm,
Francophone counterparts. But was it what I really wanted to do, what I loved doing? Yes, I was being paid for that skill, for that, whatever it's called. But was it what I loved to do, or I was just obligated to do because it was my job?
Mm.
And so, yeah, it gets me thinking. And I think maybe along the line on this podcast, we would share more about our stories. But thinking about that now influenced me even see myself here in the US trying to really pursue what God created me for or to be. But it's really important to know that to really find your purpose, you have to really not think about yourself so much. Because when I read this Ikigai book and it talks about, what you can be paid for, they're all good things. We need that. We have to be paid. But if you really want to live your purpose, because think about it, what is purpose? Purpose is, you're going to solve a need of your world. You're
Mm.
going to respond to something. You're going to give yourself out there.
Mm.
You're a gift, at that time, at that point of time in your life. So at some point, you've got to be selfless and really think about what's around you, even more than what's with you. After discovering what you can give, it's no more about you,
Yeah.
which makes it now really hard and complex to really.
Wrap your head around it. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I think that's a good point where like your purpose becomes something somewhat selfless, right? You're being selfless, you're giving your skills, time, energy to your world around you, to your community. And I think for some people, it's easy to, be that person. For others, it's like, "Oh, what's the gain?
Right.
How do I benefit from it?" But yeah, something that you have to be very introspective about and really think, where can I, you know, bring good to, where can I provide my skills, my energy, my efforts to? So, yeah.
Yeah, that's really true. And it's a really broad topic that I think we can't even share in just one episode of a podcast. It's a conversation that could take like a whole lifetime. A
Mm-hmm.
whole lifetime, if you're not careful, if you don't discover that quickly. I think what's really painful, what can be painful is the fact that you find yourself one day at 70 and you realize, oh my God, been on the wrong path all this while. So God forbid for us and for anyone watching us, but
Amen. Oh.
it's really about you and how you want to go about it. Some people will take you through a very intense, long spiritual journey. I have a friend who had to go to this prayer camp and really spend time trying to figure things out. I know people who would go on vacation, like in a camp, just to have that solitude to
Mm-hmm.
think through things. For some people, it's just through the usual New Year's resolution where they're able to really jot their plans, their dreams, and aspirations down. We all know how vision boards work. And so look within you what will work best for you. The whole point is to not miss out on why you're here, what you're here for. And as Christians, even we're told to, write the vision down,
Make it plain. Yeah.
make a plan. So planning is really important in discovering your purpose, reaching that Ikigai. And when I started, we talked about how it's about first discovering what you love, what you're good at, what you can be paid for, and what the world needs. And so if you look at it as a whole diagram, right? That's how I'm picturing it. And if you did Venn diagram in primary or senior high school, that intersection in
Mm-hmm.
there, that's where you find your ikigai. So it's not like a full piece of cake that's you're handed, you're given that, okay, voila, here's your ikigai. Eat it off, red velvet cake. But it's the journey you go through, which you love, finding what you love, what you can be paid for. So that can mean switching careers at every point in time, what you can be paid for. The economy rises, goes down, so it
Mm-hmm.
can keep switching.
Mm-hmm.
What the world needs, the world evolves, and so it can keep changing.
Mm-hmm.
But if you search within you and then you find that purpose, which I believe that it's higher than even this ikigai, as simple as it would sound. Then as the world evolves, as the economy like keeps fluctuating, you know, as you change as a human being, you will change places. And so it becomes really easy to adapt so that you're not really drifting away from your purpose, but at every point in time, wherever you find yourself,
Mm-hmm.
you adapt that purpose and you should keep walking in that. I don't know if I'm making sense,
Yeah,
but
that's a good point. I think I'll veer off a little bit to what I was able to grasp from the book about. I guess one of the things that stood out to me was like taking care of oneself to be able to achieve that so-called purpose or ikigai. Like if you don't have the strength or the health, then is there really any point in trying to achieve, like, because, sometimes we can be overwhelmed with what like life throws at you. If you're constantly tired, if you're constantly drained, burnt out,
oh,
you're gonna be in that cycle of like work, 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 get that money, but not really,
listen.
you know, achieving. What can you do for your world, or are you actually doing what you're enjoying? Like all those pieces. I don't know if you want to speak on that a little bit.
See, I was just spitting bars because I'm in that point of my life. And I'm sure a lot of you watching this right now, you probably live in like North America, US, Canada, somewhere. You know what that hustle culture is. If you're not careful, you wake up and you forget about yourself. It's all about, let me go do everything, come home, I'm making money. It's good. It's really important because you know why you're here, right? Everyone
Mm,
has their reason and why you're here. But I found myself waking up one day and questioning myself, am I even eating properly? First of all, there's so many GMOs around here. So you've got to be really intentional even about what you eat, your diet.
mm-hmm,
Am I exercising enough? When was the last time you even went to the hospital to do like a whole general checkup? Because sometimes the
mm,
body will not, it's going to be silenced. They don't give you symptoms.
yeah.
Before you know, bro, the person is gone. They are like, oh, village people, but I am in that space right now where I'm like, I need to take this body serious because even if the anointing comes from God, it has to be deposited in your body that is containing the spirit.
Mm-hmm,
And so if you're always getting colds, flu, if you're always getting a stomach upset, if you're not taking care of yourself, your blood pressure is like,
mm,
then what's the point? You're gonna die too early, and it's probably not God's plan for you, right?
mm-hmm,
Sometimes we be like, oh, God give it and he take it away. But was he really ready to take away at that time?
yeah.
So what Emma said is really true. And that's why I really loved the whole Japanese culture and wanted to talk about purpose in the Ikigai context because for them it's very holistic.
Mm-hmm,
It's not just about the feeling within, but it's also about the body. And in the book, they talk about how, we learn about the 80-20 Pareto rule. And for the Japanese, they make sure that when they eat, they only eat when they are
80%
80% full.
full.
I'm
Yeah.
like, see, when I make my jollof and chicken, which one is 80% full? Like, I'm eating, even when I'm full, I want to like,
There's room for dessert.
That's right. But I think we're growing, right? Sometimes we forget that we're no more like kids, we're no more teenagers. And so our bodies are also changing, our
Mm,
metabolism. So we need to take care of ourselves holistically. Like it, it means going for regular walks, reading a page a day just to stimulate the mind, right? Sometimes fasting from social media. And it's hard for me because in a country like this where the social life is sometimes really, you're like scrolling all the way, right? Scrolling. But I think it's really important to really take care of ourselves, our minds, our bodies, so that when we discover that purpose, or while we discover that purpose, we're able to be strong enough to accomplish it.
yeah. I agree. I agree. And I like the point that you said, like, at first I was going to be like, maybe that's the first thing you do, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's the first thing you do. Like, in the process of taking care of your body, your mind, spiritually, your soul, whatever it may be, you can end up finding your purpose or your ikigai in that process. So I think that's a really good point that you raised.
And we're all looking forward to reach that sweet spot, ikigai spot, and be like, finally, we
Mm-hmm.
found it. But I also have this feeling that I don't know how the Japanese are doing it, that they all believe that they found it. But I'm tempted to say that nobody's ever going to reach that sweet spot, even when you discover your purpose. And there's something I've been thinking about like ever since I started reading this book slowly. I've read this book once, but I just casually read it because at that time I told myself that summer 2024 I was going to finish 4 books. So
Mm.
I was just like,
Yeah.
oh, but now I'm taking my time in the book and questioning what's in the book, questioning the Japanese culture, and questioning my own self. Because even when I discover my purpose, and we talked about how things evolve, the world evolves, the economy is changing, so you just have to be adaptable with that purpose. I just feel like because of that change, one might never like really enter that sweet spot, that, Venn diagram that we
Yeah.
pictured. But the whole point is to make sure that in that journey, which obviously is not linear, keep learning and
Growing.
growing,
Yeah.
right? And making sure that you're impactful as an accountant, as a babysitter, as a janitor, as a student, as a
Mm.
friend, parents, as whatever, president one day, a diplomat. You want to make sure that whatever you find yourself doing, um purposefully, or because that's the job you found, because you sometimes you have to do something. You can't just keep sitting down and saying, oh, I don't love this job. At some point you need to pay your bills, so you have to take
Yeah.
up a job. But you have to make sure that wherever you find yourself, you're positively putting out impact. And who knows, as you're doing it, you might end up loving it. And you even say, oh, this is my purpose. I was called to be a nurse. I was called to be a caregiver.
Mm.
I was called to be a professor. Me, Paul, maybe from the start, you thought you were going to be like a pilot or a
Yeah.
baker. So, yeah, I didn't think about this. It just came.
Yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
that's a good point. Okay. Well, I know I had some questions, so I don't know if you have anything else to add,
Bring it
but
on.
I had some questions that I thought we could quickly answer.
Quiz mistress out.
What is I'm joking. Um, I guess like I think one question we could ask is what are you passionate about? I know that's a hard question because you can be passionate about like many things, but what's one thing that you'd like to share that you're passionate about?
Wow. So this is hard because this question was asked 4 years or 3 years ago. I would easily say I'm passionate about women and girls. What exactly, I didn't know, but at that time, all I wanted to do was that, wherever I be, whatever I do, I just want to empower women and girls. I do not think that it has changed, but my journey right now has drifted a bit. And so, for example, I never really used to care about, environmental stuff. All I know is that at home, my mom would say, do not litter. Back home, when you're in school, they'll tell us, don't reuse plastics,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. But it wasn't really something that I would go read about or really care about so much. But I guess my education right now, especially coming from Kobe and everything, pulled me towards that space. So I'm not going to call that passion yet because it's still something I'm learning, and something because I'm always working with, and, something I do in my work. So I care about it. So I don't think it's really my passion yet. So it's really difficult to answer that question. But I think that even if it's be the environment, I am still really passionate about the well-being of women and girls, or to say children, not just like the girl child, children.
Mm,
Because traveling has made me understand that even in the most prosperous economies, sometimes children and women are still like forgotten, which is really weird. Um, it's not just in the third world countries and developing countries, it's really bad even in developed nations. So yeah, right now it's hard to tell what my passion is, but I think I'm really drawn towards the well-being of women and children.
mm, that's good.
What if I've been blubbering up?
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Like it's hard for me myself as well to pinpoint like what my passion is, because I feel like passion is a strong. It's deeper than you saying, "Oh, I like doing this."
Right.
I can't say I'm passionate about watching shows in my room.
Hello, you're passionate. I'm passionate about Korean culture.
I mean, yeah, like I would say that's more of like I'm interested in it to a certain degree. But I think for passion wise, if I were to say one thing, um, I think it's similar to what you said, more so like really advocating for the marginalized,
Right.
the ones that are, they don't have a seat at the
Forgotten.
table, the ones that are forgotten. And it might not be to the degree of like, oh, I have an NGO that is advocating, but more maybe one day. Yeah, but it's more of like in the little things that I can do, whether it's at my job or how I educate myself or um being in those spaces and those conversations that advocate for those who have been forgotten, marginalized, pushed aside, especially within like the environment as well. Like I think both of us are in that environment sustainability field. So I think that's just the world that I'm in, and just
Right.
being more aware of like how people are just being mistreated and so on and so forth. So I think that's one thing that I'm passionate about. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question though. Listening to you, and I've known Emma for a while, and I know she has many talents. So I was gonna ask, do you think that a talent could equate to passion? Like, she is really good at stuff. Like, she's good with her hands, like skincare, baking, the hair stuff, And even like I've worked on her on several projects. She's also like a really good collaborator, like organizing stuff. So I'm listening to you right now and looking at what I've observed around you, what I consider your talent. And I'm thinking, do you think that like passion could equate to talent or gift?
I think that's a good question. I think for me, if you're passionate about something, you're enjoying the process.
Right.
So for me personally, there's some things that I might be good at, but deep down I don't really like the process, or maybe I've lost the
Mm.
love for it. Like I think about like I used to do people's nails, for example, right? The process of me learning how to do that was enjoyable. I used to do it for a few people here and there.
She's good.
But at some point, I think I've started to reflect. I've slowly lost the love for it. So I'm like, yeah, I can do it, but I don't really enjoy doing it anymore.
Well, I like your answer because unconsciously you're taking us back to what we talked about Ikigai, right?
Yes.
So yes,
That's what you.
she's good at it, but she doesn't really like love it, and it's not something that she thinks the world around her needs
Yeah, and
that much for her to be paid for.
that's a good point, because at the time, like I think about when I was an undergrad, like my world, right, was my college community, and maybe if people were graduating during that time, right, they needed someone who was affordable to do their nails, right? So I was that
Yeah.
person. I had that passion, I had the talent,
Wow.
I enjoyed it, and I was there to serve my Ikigai or my purpose, right? I know it's a very trivial example, but then once I left that world and I came to a different world, like here in Colorado, like now people do like doing things for themselves, DIY. People learn in the process. So like at the time, I could do people's nails, but people ended up growing, branching out and doing it themselves. So it's like
Right.
at that point, I lost the like for it, and then no one really needed it that often. So I had to pivot and find something else. So
Wow, that is so cool. That's so I just remember something, and shout out to our friend Awa, who is from Gambia. And one time Awa was doing my hair, and I was like, "Wow, Awa, you're so talented. You can do so many things." And she's like, "Tiwa, what's your talent? What are you?" But winning capstones.
yeah,
And many would not get this joke, but it was just right after a period where there was this capstone thing. I was like, I've never seen you do anything, just this one. And I thought that was so funny. But yeah, what you said about pivoting into something else is really important. But I think that you probably still love doing that, but maybe to be for it that you think that, oh, let me move to something else. And so
yeah.
it's making you think like, oh, okay, I don't love it anymore. But you never know when it's gonna come out again.
Who knows? To be determined, to be seen. I don't know, but I think that's a whole other conversation. Like that money element for me, because initially it was something that I liked doing for fun, and I enjoyed that, the time you spend with people. But obviously, when you add that money element, there's that extra pressure, and
Right.
it's a whole other
Yeah, but for
thing.
some people, it could be a good motivator. Like people think that, oh, if I'm gonna be paid for, washing dishes, and I love washing dishes. I don't love washing dishes, but
I
it's
love
just
washing dishes.
it's, people will be like, okay, then I'm gonna wash like 1,000 plates. But for some people, like she said, when the money factor gets in, they feel pressured, and
Mm,
now it's like, okay, I need to be perfect. I don't have to make mistakes because then this person is paying me for this
yeah,
service.
service. Yeah,
Yeah, you're right.
yeah, that's a good point. Do you have any last words surrounding Ikigai? Well, I know we talked about a lot of things, but I think it's kind of getting to the point where we can conclude and stay tuned for the next episode. But
See, but I don't know if it's a question. How many of you want to visit Japan though?
I want to visit
I want
Japan.
to visit
I
Japan.
want to
And
visit
it's
Japan.
not for Ikigai. People take like pilgrimage to Japan to find that. I've read stories online when I was reading about Ikigai. But I just feel they're just a special breed of people, How, oh my God, I can hear something, but how they consciously take care of themselves, their minds. It amazes me. And I've traveled quite a bit. I've never been to that part of the world, Asia, but if I should choose like a place in Asia that I really want to visit right now, it's going to be le Japon. J'aimerais bien
Japan.
visiter le Japon.
Oui, oui. Yeah.
But yeah, wrap up. Maybe last word.
No, I think we definitely covered a lot of different topics, especially surrounding Ikigai. Like we started at one point, went somewhere else, and came back full circle. So I think this is a good first episode. Yeah.
We really want to hear from you in the comments section, in our DMs. What are you struggling with right now when it comes to discovering your purpose, your calling in this life? Let us hear from you. How did you find yours? What are you doing? Share with us. Teach somebody in the comments section on how they can also discover their purpose. Yeah, so this is our little homework for you. What do you love to do? What are you good at? What can you be paid for? And what does the world around you need right now? So, homework. Let's hear from you.
Yes. And see you next Sunday with our next
Yeah.
episode.
Follow, share, subscribe.
Follow FAROL, like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs light.